Welcome to the Water Trough, where we can't make you drink, but we will make you think. My name is Ed Drozda, the Small Business Doctor, and I'm really excited you chose to join me here as we discuss topics that are important for small business folks just like you. If you're looking for ideas, inspiration, and possibility, you've come to the right place. Join us as we take steps to help you create the healthy business that you've always wanted. Welcome back to the Water Trough. This is Ed Drozda, the Small Business Doctor. I've been thinking about selling, or more specifically, about being on the receiving end of somebody trying to sell something. I think these things have gotten vastly more sophisticated over the years. Telephone calls and things like that have given way to emails, various types of aggressive advertising, and a variety of things that are not only redundant, but perhaps somewhat overwhelming to the uninitiated buyer. My story takes us back to a time when I was looking to change my local lawn care service to one of those major chains. My local guy did a great job, by the way, but he was expensive, and I thought, well, I could save some money by going to a larger chain. They'd been advertised that way, so I pursued it. I did some investigation into the major chains, and I decided upon one that I thought I'd like to go with. Well, I think it'd be interesting to share with you what happened next. It started with upselling. A major chain obviously has a variety of other services to offer, and we're all familiar with upselling. This guy actually got me to purchase a shrub treatment program that effectively doubled my cost. I understand why a company resorts to upselling, basically to improve profitability. I think there's probably no good reason for it other than that. Okay. But this particular guy, this salesperson, he brought it to a whole new level. First of all, the same offers were repeated over and over. Now, the same can be said for today with our email assaults and so on and so forth. You hit unsubscribe. And ideally, when we unsubscribe, these offers stop coming. But lacking a unsubscribe button, I said to the guy, listen, stop. I don't want any more of these offers. Just plain stop. However, he would not stop at that. In fact, he'd emphatically point out that these extras were not only aesthetically appealing, but they were necessary to retain the value and the beauty of my property. I call it the hard sell upsell. So this guy is trying to tell me how to maintain my property effectively. He's telling me that without his services, there's nothing in the world that's going to give me the value that his services can offer me. I guess you could say he's trying to shame me into accepting the fact that I was unaware of what was necessary. When I decided to take my business elsewhere, the things got really ugly. He called to cancel and told him the service was adequate, but I didn't appreciate the heavy-handed upselling that continued despite my protestations. I came right out and said it to him. Yes, the service is adequate. No, it was not amazing. I certainly didn't have time to see if it was going to increase the value of my property, but I made it very clear to him yet again that I did not appreciate the heavy-handed upselling despite my protestations. His response? He offered me a lower price than what I was paying initially. I hung up the phone that day, no longer engaging their services. But not long after this, I started receiving calls yet again, asking if I wanted to use their service again. In some cases, these calls were chiding my decision to go elsewhere. And by the way, this is the same person that had given me so much grief in the first place. The calls continued, sometimes occurring after 9 o'clock at night. Most of the time, I didn't even bother picking up the phone. And on those occasions, no message was left either. At last, and I can't believe it took me this long, I contacted the customer service manager and I told her that I felt I was being harassed. And when I told her who the salesman was, she shocked me by saying, We've had issues with him before, and we'll take care of it. In fact, they did take care of it. He never called again. But here's the question. How could it ever get like this in the first place? What kind of a business would have an employee like this, of whom they're aware, and let things continue as it did with me? Your company's sales performance is comprised of personnel and sales practices, and it's often the only factor that determines whether or not customers will buy from you now or in the future. Think about it. The ripple effect of my experience, or anyone in my shoes, can be dramatic. I'll never do business with that company again. And quite frankly, I did let everyone who wanted to hear about it know about my experience. What company can afford to have a public face like this? Is there any chance you have somebody like this? Do you have an employee who is flying under the radar or being simply ignored because there's too much of a problem to fix it, who is putting his image out to the public about your company? It's critical for companies to take firm control over the sales performance process, and most importantly, for the sales personnel. Individuals who are hired into this role should be, and typically are, carefully screened to ensure at a bare minimum that they have an enthusiasm for customers. That goes without saying. That is a prescribed component of the right stuff for a salesperson. But aside from that, the company itself needs to have a oversight process, expectations for salespeople that goes far beyond that basic requirement that they be people persons. We can train them as to how to sell the products that we have. We can educate them about what they're selling, but inherently, they need to be passionate about serving customers and at the same time achieving the goal of selling our products. This is the kind of people that make for good salespeople. It's of little value that we've got people who are passionate about the product or service. Of little value that those people with a passion for the product or service are incredibly wise about the product or service if they fundamentally lack the enthusiasm, the interest, or the passion for the people they serve, your customers. In my opinion, this company made a major blunder. They were aware of difficulties with this employee, and yet they allowed him to continue without sufficient oversight. Had they hired the right sort of person in the first place, they would not be in the position they're in now. Hiring the right salespeople is only the beginning. We also want to ensure we provide sufficient guidance and support to ensure that they remain successful. Of incredible importance, we have to be vigilant, always, for rogue persons or activities that could undermine our business integrities. When we uncover these situations, we must be prepared to take appropriate measures to correct the matter promptly. Ideally, our customers won't be the first to bring these matters to our attention. A final word about sales practices. Selling is but one of a plethora of tools that is employed to up the return per customer. Too much of anything can be a bad thing. And when your customer hollers uncle, it's time to let go. Choose your offerings carefully. And always keep in mind, how would you feel if someone was selling to you as you are selling to them? There's a lot to be said for that old golden rule. Treat others as you want to be treated. How does your team measure up? This is Ed Drozda, the Small Business Doctor. Until next time, I want to wish you a healthy business. Archie,